in Utah, it's finally fall, and we're going to celebrate that. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is For Pause in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Today I'm going to be talking about some books that give me some fall vibes. It's finally cool enough. I think fall might be here, and it doesn't matter. September 1st means spooky season, so we're going to talk about some fall vibe books, some books that give me joy in this season as we enter the seasonal depression. Generally for me that doesn't start until January, but like I know we're creeping up on it, so it's fine. Let's talk about some books that are gonna give me some joy, or that have given me some joy, and then some TBR books that I have on my radar that I want to read as we enter this fall season. I do not read a ton of thrillers, and the thrillers that I read tend to be more winter related, so I don't have that many on here. However, I do have a couple, so I'm going to talk about them first. The first one is Sadie by Courtney Summers. This is about a girl who is trying to find her sister, and then there's also a podcast as they're trying to find her. It's very true crime. If you're into true crime, I think you'll really like this, and so because of that kind of gives me the fall spooky vibes. It's not ghost or anything like that. It's not paranormal, but there are some I don't know, just some scary elements to it, and I'm not into true crime that much, but I loved this book, and so I just kind of associate that with the fall season. I don't know why, but here's that. And then one that is definitely spooky and fall, and that is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. This is about a haunted house. Literally. This is about a house that this woman's family owned and lived in for 5 weeks, and then her dad wrote a book about this house and how it was haunted and how there was paranormal elements to it, and then she kind of blocked it out of her memory because she was a child, and so she thinks that the book was actually fake, that none of this actually happened, but then as she goes back to the house as an adult, things happen again. And so it's a very back and forth. There's a story within a story because you actually get chapters of the book that the dad wrote and then present day kind of paralleling it. This book is so good. On audio, it's amazing. Highly recommend it. For me, fall also means football season. I am a big football fan and I love it. And so football also signals fall. Fall signals football. It kind of all happens at the same time because the NFL season kind of starts in mid-September. So I'm here for that. So I have the Playbook series by Alexa Martin, Intercepted, Fumbled, Blitzed, and then Snapped are the 4 that are out. This is a really good sports romance or a football romance. It's about different players that are on this team that is essentially the Denver Broncos, and then the women that they are involved in. And a couple of them deal with some social commentary. The most recent one deals with the Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem. But trying to incorporate that into the story. So really, really love these series. Might reread them as we kind of enter this football, as we get into football season. So here for that. I have a couple of contemporaries that will give you more cozy fall vibes than the spooky fall vibes. So we have A Man Called Ova by Frederick Bachman. Really anything by Frederick Bachman, even if they don't take place in the fall. Beartown takes place in the winter, I think. It takes place in a very cold place. It's really not fall, but this screams reading with a cup of tea, cozied up, and that is fall. On a rainy day, that kind of thing. So, while this may not actually take place in the fall, I feel like it still is going to give you those cozy vibes. This book is so good. It is about this grumpy old man that basically walks around his neighborhood trying to enforce the neighborhood rules. So if it says, you cannot ride your bike on the sidewalk, well, he's going to yell at whoever's riding their bike on the sidewalk. And then his wife dies, and then he tries to unalive himself on multiple occasions, because it's not because like he's depressed or anything like that. He just feels like he's lived a good life and now he wants to go be with his wife. But every time he tries to do it, he gets interrupted by one of his neighbors. So his neighbor needs a cup of sugar, or his other neighbor needs a car ride. And like all of these different things keep happening to him. And he keeps thinking, well, I have to help them, because if I don't, and I die and I get to heaven, my wife's going to yell at me because I didn't help our neighbors. And that's his thought, is the whole thing, that he's just trying to make his wife happy even after after she passes away. So really, really recommend this. Definitely be in a good headspace, obviously, but this is a really heartwarming book despite its really serious conversations. Then we have The How and the Why by Cynthia Hand. This is a book that, again, I don't remember like when it takes place, or even like if it takes place just in one season, but I did read this last September, and so like for me, I have a fall vibe to it. She's also visiting a lot of college campuses, and so like to me that feels kind of fall-ish. But this is about a girl who turns 18. She has a great adopted family. She's very happy with her family, but when she turns 18, she gets these letters from her birth mother, and then she tries to like investigate and try to figure out like who her mother was, why she gave her up, that kind of stuff. So very good family ties book. This story deals with adoption, and it also has kind of two timelines going, where it is the letters from the mother and like that story, and then her as an 18-year-old, or the daughter as an 18-year-old. So really, really love this book. Now let's talk about some more like paranormal and or witchy vibes. A lot of these are going to cross over from the books that I read last year, that was like reading witchy books on Halloween. So I'll link that up in the description above if you want like more of my like live reactions to it. But a couple of those books are going to be in this recommendations video as well. The first one I didn't love personally, but if you love YA paranormal, you might like it. I didn't like the characters. I just felt like they were really dumb, but the paranormal aspect of it wasn't bad. So we have Rooms by Lauren Oliver. This takes place in what is kind of like a haunted house where the patriarch of the family has died, and then the rest of the family is getting together to discuss the will, I think. The family is kind of alienated, so they're all kind of getting back together, and then some paranormal fun, spooky things happen. There are 2 ghosts that live in this house, and a few of the family members, or one of the family members, can actually hear these ghosts and speak to them, and they have feelings on the will as well. Then we have The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. This is classified as middle grade, but I think it's definitely one of those more upper middle grade stories. This has a lot of like politics talk in it, or like fantastical politics. This is about a community who gives up a baby every year to the Witch of the Forest. Now the Witch of the Forest is very confused as to why this community does it, and so the witch takes the baby and feeds the baby Starlight, and then takes it to another town across the forest, and like that town adopts this baby. Accidentally, the witch gives this little baby girl Moonlight instead of Starlight, and so then she has powers. Oops, my bad. So the witch actually decides to raise Luna, and there's this tiny little dragon that's a little pet, and he's so cute. So like parts of it are very middle grade. You have the animal companion and things like that. But then we also have this like politics between the 2 towns, and this like mystery and things like that. I'm not really sure where to classify this. It kind of fits in like the same. If you really like The Wayward Children, you would probably like this book. Alright, I got a couple of witchy books here, like full-on witchy. The first one I have talked about relatively recently because it was a group book for the Avengers. That's Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. This is about 3 sisters who are trying to help with the suffragette movement. It's very white feminism, but as far as a family story goes, it's great. The atmosphere is very, very, very good. It takes place at the end of the 19th century. As far as a feminist story goes, not so great. As far as a witchy aesthetic family story goes, really, really good. And so it also deals with some fairy tales and folklore and things like that. And all of the townsfolk, like, obviously they think magic is evil. It kind of goes back. It's New Salem, so there's also some ties into the Salem witch trials. So it's kind of an alternate universe historical fantasy. Then we have Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton. This is a very witchy, very spooky vibe book, so if you're in the mood for that, this one's definitely one to pick up. And this is a book about a town who's made a bargain with the devil, where each year they have to sacrifice a young man, and they have these like trials to determine who this one will be. And there are like lots of witches. This has a polyamorous relationship in it, which is pretty great. I don't think that the poly relationship is really the focus of the story, though, unfortunately, which is what I wanted going into it. But as far as the atmosphere of this is where you're at. Then we have A Toil and Trouble, 15 Tales of Women and Witchcraft. I read this a long time ago. So it's an anthology of short stories, and I think there might be some like poetry in here. I can't remember. But it is part contemporary. There's some historical. There's a lot in here. If you do like short stories, this is definitely one that you'd want to pick up. The atmosphere in all of the stories is just very well organized, and the editors did a great job with this. Okay, I do have a dark academia on here. I also have a few on my to be read shelf, so I'll talk about those at the end. But this one is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. I did just finish this, so I did talk about it in my mid-month wrap-up quite a bit, so I'll link that up there. This is about a girl who lives at this boarding school, so it's very dark academia, very witchy. She kind of believes in magic, doesn't want to practice it because of something that happened in the past, and you kind of learn about that as you go along. And then there is this freshman that comes in, so it's very queer, FYI. They do have a little bit of a romance, or a little bit of like kind of will they, won't they. It does definitely have like the YA thriller plot twist about 2/3 of the way in. But the first half specifically, but really all of it, definitely it takes place in a fall semester, so but basically between like September and November, so it definitely has those fall vibes, and you kind of feel the atmosphere, and that part of this book, just phenomenal. If you watched my mid-month wrap-up, you know that I didn't love this book completely, but I definitely think that I'm not the target audience for it, that there are things that were in this book that I don't love as a reader, but I am not in the majority of that, so I definitely see the audience for this. This cover just screams fall, and that is The Immortalist by Chloe Benjamin. This is the story of 4 children who meet this fortune teller, and the fortune teller tells them the date that they are going to die. And so from there, the book kind of splits off, and you follow the 4 different siblings around the time that they are supposed to die. So this definitely deals with some really heavy topics. It also deals with being queer in the 80s in San Francisco. So right at the height of the AIDS pandemic. So it definitely deals with some very difficult subjects. Be in a good headspace for this. But it also really discusses the idea of what would you do differently with your life if you knew when you were going to die? So I feel like there's a lot of conversations that can be had with this book. I didn't do this on purpose, but the last 2 are from the same author, so that works. We have Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas and Lost in the Neverwoods. This was his debut novel, and then this was his sophomore novel, although I think this one was written first. I liked this one better, but that's just because it's a Peter Pan retelling, and I love Peter Pan retellings. But this one, they live on the edge of the woods, so it definitely has that spooky vibe to it. I feel like Peter Pan just in general has a very fall feel to it. I could probably pull down other retellings that kind of have the same vibe. And then this one, though, definitely fall, as it does take place surrounding Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. So it definitely has some fall vibes. This is about a trans bruja, and he tries to summon someone and get someone else. Essentially, he doesn't know what he's doing with his magic. I was trying to explain this to Brie, one of the hosts, as she was reading this. She's going to be reading this for a future board, and basically I said, as far as learning the magic system, it's basically try shit and see what happens. That's essentially what this is. This was really good. The audiobook is really good. But just because of how much I love Peter Pan and Peter Pan retellings, Lost in the Neverwoods was definitely my favorite of the two books. Okay, so those are some books that I have read that have some fall vibes. Now I want to talk about a couple of books that are on my TBR that I definitely want to get to. The first one is Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. This is kind of a horror book with lesbians, girls on an island, I think. I'm planning on reading this for the Camp Weekend Ween that Gabby is putting on. That's kind of like a weekend version of the Summer Ween, and it's supposed to be like camp related prompts. So I think that this will fit a lot of the prompts for it. So I'm planning on reading that. The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. This is a book about a girl who, or girls, I'm not really sure, but basically on the equinoxes, their powers are very strong. And so again, I feel like this is going to be very like nature and elemental magic related. And I feel very fall about that. I know that it actually deals with all 4 of the seasons, but we're gonna go with it. Then we have another book that has just a very fall cover, and that is Burn Our Bodies Down by Rory Power. I have heard really mixed things about this, and it's a lot shorter than I thought it was. But this is got a mysterious girl in it, dying corn, a fire. I don't know what this is going to be about, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and it feels fall. It feels fall. And then lastly, another dark academia book that I have, and that is Plain Bed Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. I've heard some really good things about this. I actually got it as an ARC and then realized it was 600 pages and then didn't get to it last fall, so I'm going to read it this fall. It is on my TBR for October, and it says The Favorite meets The Haunting of Hill House in this highly imaginative and original highbrow horror comedy, which I'm here for, but I think it's about like something that happened in the past, and then in the present they are making a movie or a book about what has happened in the past, and then the things start happening again. I don't really know, but it does take place at a school, and it's very queer, so I'm here for this. Let me know down in the comments below a book that you would recommend that gives you fall vibes, or maybe a book that you want to read that you think is going to have fall vibes. And if you're not feeling chatty, put the ghost emoji down in the comments below. Let me know that you were here, you made it to the end of the video. It is spooky season, so yeah. That is all I have for you today. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video, and all the other links to my social media will be in the description below if you would like to be my friend on any other platform. Thank you all for joining, and I will see you next time.